Hi, I'm Matt.
Hey there, I'm Bianca.
And in this video, we're telling you the horror story of that couple that trapped us on their island.
So keep watching.
And we've had a lot of stories and a lot of teaching moments over the years.
Sure, let's call them teaching moments.
Sure, why not? It's a good way to describe it. And we'd like to tell stories about something that we've run into in the past that can actually be something that's useful for someone else as they're getting in the lifestyle, as they're starting to connect with other couples, and see if that could potentially help them.
Right.
And that was kind of the plan with this video. This is actually a very interesting story because this is also a story about why we don't date other couples without knowing them.
Right.
And also a story about my lowest point in all of the
you're going to tell the whole story.
Oh, well,
you're not going to leave anything back. Okay.
No. So stay tuned for that. So,
oh, man.
Yeah. If there were any women that were ever attracted to me, they won't be after the end of the story.
You did not put this on your dating profile.
I do not put this on my dating profile.
Okay.
So you want to kind of start, just kind of give us a backstory on that?
Well, I mean, like you said, we don't have much experience, and we never have had much experience with dating people, especially people we don't know. And part of it is because I think online, I'm just not often online on the dating profiles and that kind of stuff. And you would be, and you just have zero idea of my type, especially in the beginning, or more so than now. In the beginning, when this happened, you had no idea who I'd be interested in, really.
Well,
it's hard for you to.
That's true, but I generally know, and I've always known, that you are attracted to men who are not aggressive is the wrong word. More outgoing, confident. That's a good word. Confident. Yeah. Yes. And so when I had spoken with this gentleman online on one of the dating websites, he seemed very confident. He seemed very much someone who was interested in you, was very attracted to you, and of course, looking at the pictures as one does of the husband and the wife, I found her very attractive.
And she must have had big boobs too.
She must have had big boobs. That's good. Correct. All right.
So you chatted with them.
I like small boobs too. The same.
So you chatted with them for a while, and then
chatted with him.
And then you guys set up a date.
Yes.
So we set up a time and day to meet up at a restaurant. And I remember when we were getting ready, we did actually, knowing full well that it could lead somewhere, you always be prepared, right? Oh, yeah. So we were prepared. We got our kids out of the house because our kids were really young at the time. We got them out of the house, got them a full overnight babysitter, prepared our house to have guests over. So we were prepared to invite them over to our house if that were to go the way. Or we even talked about if we were to get a hotel room, if that's what they wanted, how would that work? So we kind of did prepare ourselves for all the things that we could think of that could happen. Exactly.
And we weren't necessarily brand new, but we had been dating, or we had been in the lifestyle for less than a year. And so we had experiences with other couples, but we just didn't have experience with actually, hi, nice to meet you. And then moving forward, that as a just 2-on-2, just going out to a restaurant and seeing if we connected.
Because we'd really only gone to parties and events and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And we had actually been to some of the Club Sapphire events at the time before they opened, so they actually did hotel takeovers, which were a blast. But in those situations, and which is always what we recommend to people now, is that if you meet somebody for dinner that you haven't met before, then you go to the club, and if it works out, then you might play there.
Then you don't have to worry about cleaning your house.
That's true too. And a lot of the story, a lot of the reason why we recommend that is based off of this story, because it did not end. It did not end well. And so we met for dinner, and it was a great dinner. We connected with him really well. He was flirting with you, and he's putting his arm on you, and I'm on your leg, and I'm flirting with the woman, and we're touching, and we're dinner
lasted quite a while. while.
Oh yeah,
it was a really nice, slow, get to know you dinner, a couple of hours.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And it was on the waterfront. It was, it was just beautiful. It was
sunny and beautiful.
Yeah, a perfect Washington evening.
Yeah.
And then at one point he comes over and he's like, "Hey, Bianca, can I kiss you?" And you're like, "Yes." And like we're in this or outside of this restaurant, and they did, and I'm like, "Cool, this is cool." They're connecting, and then I connected with the wife, and then he said, "Would you like to come back to our place?" And we're like, yeah, sure, we could do that. We're prepared to do that, absolutely. And then they said, by the way, we live on an island. Now, if you don't know Washington State, Puget Sound, which is right in the center of the center of the state, is this giant waterway, and there are, I believe, hundreds of islands in Puget Sound. Some of them are big, some of them are small. We used to live on a small one years ago with like 1,000 full-time residents. This one that they lived in was a little bit larger, but they said, and we had driven 2 cars to the restaurant, so they had said, well, if you'd like to follow us, then, because we had 2 cars, you do need to take a ferry to get to this island. And just to let you know that after 10 p.m., the ferry stopped running. And we're like looking at each other. We're like, okay, well, it's like, 8-ish now. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure it'll be fine. But we connected really well with them.
Yeah, but they did offer us a place to stay should it last longer than
that time, which is very likely.
If it lasts longer and you miss the ferry, we do have a guest room for you.
Lasts longer than what is it, like a half hour with drive time? Gosh, I hope so.
I mean, the thought in our head was, we will be spending the night.
Right.
There wasn't really another option unless we wanted to sleep in our car at the ferry dock.
Yeah, which was in the back of our head, and in hindsight might have been a better idea. So we were like, you know what? We like this couple. We're attracted to this couple. They're very experienced. What could go wrong? and so we're like, yeah, we'll follow you in our car. And then they said, yeah, we've got a spare bedroom, and you guys are welcome to stay there and leave in the morning whenever you're comfortable. I'll make breakfast if you want, or whatever it might be. And we're like, cool. Okay, let's throw caution to the wind. Let's do this. So we get in our cars and we follow them. And in the meantime, we're talking to each other, as far as our expectations. And of course, that's always very, very important in any situation that you and your significant other are on the same page. And since this was very new to us, it was important that we did talk. Yeah. And since we did have the drive to the ferry, and then the ferry while we're sitting on that for a while, and then the drive to their house in the middle of the woods, which ended up being so that we could just, like I said, be on the same page.
Yeah.
So we get there, and they decide to give us a tour of their house, and it's a gorgeous house. And they clearly, after we had walked in the door, after a few feet, we realized that they are experts at this. They have done this many times with other couples. And so, which is fine, to each his own. We weren't, like I said, we weren't brand new either, and they were very experienced. They knew what they're doing. They did date couples exclusive. This is what they specifically did. They date couples and then bring them back to their house. And so they give us a tour, and they give us a tour of their playroom. A lot of couples have playrooms. We didn't have one at the time, but shortly thereafter we built one in our basement. It was amazing, and it had a pole, and it had numerous beds and a massage table, and
two like queen beds next to each other, like all looking like one big bed, with a swing. Yeah.
So it was awesome. So, but we hadn't run into that before, where someone had something like this in their house. And so we go into their playroom, and it's, some beds, and that's perfectly fine. And then they show us the wall of dildos. And when I say the wall of dildos,
it was more of a closet of dildos.
Yeah, a very, very large one. Yeah. They all had their individual shelves with small ones and medium ones, and
like backlit and
very large ones.
Yeah.
And they and the whips and the shackles and all of the things that one might have in your playroom, depending on what you are into. And clearly they were into lots of things.
Lots of toys.
Lots of things. So,
and I'm not really a toy person.
No.
So this was kind of, to me, like, whoa.
Like, I don't know what to do, because you've always been more of a vibrator person over a dildo person.
Oh, sure. But more by myself. I don't necessarily use it. I don't need it to orgasm, and I don't need it like to have fun.
Right.
So I'm not the person that takes toys with me everywhere.
Sure. So it was convenient that they had them then. So, sure.
Trying something new.
So being a couple of very successful swingers, of course, they had a hot tub as well. Mm-hmm. And so they said, hey, you guys want to get in a hot tub? We're like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So, we hop, that's right in their backyard, right outside the playroom. And we go in there, we get to take our clothes off fully naked, and we're in the hot tub, and I'm making out with her, and you're making out with him, and all things are getting hot and heavy. And then they say, hey, you guys want to go back inside? We're like, okay, great. So now we're fully naked, and we're in the playroom. And they said, Bianca, have you ever played with a Sibian before? If you don't know what a Sibian is, you want to describe that?
I mean, it's just a big, huge electronic machine that you can have different attachments to, and you can have inserting, you can have clitoral stimulation,
and you squat on it.
Well, you sit on it.
Yeah.
You don't squat on it, but you straddle it.
You straddle it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And they had many different attachments for that. And they said, you know what, Bianca, I can tell that you would like, out of all these attachments that we have, I can tell that you would like the biggest one. And right? Yeah.
Please continue, and then I'll comment. And this story gets different every single time you tell it. No, this story is like the fisherman story, because every time you tell it, the fish was this big, but then when Matt tells it, every time he tells it, the fish gets this big, and then this big, and then this big.
That's fine. So if you happen to be Googling and you don't believe me, Google the largest attachment for the Sibian, and it's large.
This is not how I remember.
I remember this vividly.
No, I remember
bigger than a fist.
Yeah. No.
Oh yeah, it was.
You're exaggerating.
Okay, whatever. Comment below if you think I'm exaggerating or not, because I'm not. So she gets on it, and she enjoys it quite thoroughly. She had not been on one before, and if you've never seen one in action, they're pretty amazing, because women cannot fake anything when they're on those, because they're machines. They're engines practically.
Yeah.
So you were on that, and you had a great time, and things were moving forward, and then the guy says, Bianca, do you want to move in the living room, and Matt can hang out with the wife in the playroom? Sure. We had played separate a little bit at that point, but they were just right in the next room, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
And we were both comfortable with that. So.
Right. So then what did you do?
So yeah, we went to the living room and messed around for a little bit. It was over quickly. I remember it not taking a lot of time.
And in the meantime, I'm playing with the wife in the playroom, and we're having sex and going at it. It's having a really, really great time. And then you finished up relatively quickly.
Yeah. So when we were done, he kind of was like done. So he's like on his cell phone, just, and I'm like, so I'm gonna go check on them, see if they need any help. Because I'm like, what am I supposed to do here?
Right.
You can't even have a conversation with me.
Yeah. So you come into the playroom, and you see that I'm just having a good time with the wife, and she is lying on her stomach, and I'm from behind basically, and we've been playing for a while, so it's kind of cooled down, and it's just kind of a relaxing, slower sex that we're having. And you come over, and you just start like petting,
massaging her back, like just soft little pets, and giving her a scalp massage, and just kind of petting her. Right.
And and I'm just slowly going to town on her, and you're rubbing her and petting her, and then at one point you look at her, and you turn to me, and you go, Matt, I think she's asleep. And I'm like, wait, what? And lo and behold, she's like snoring away, just snoring away while I'm inside her. My proudest moment. That being said, it was because it was slow and calming,
and it was late,
and it was pretty late at this point, and but that's like, and so we just kind of like, well, okay, let me just kind of exit out of her, and and let's leave her there to sleep on the bed, and so we go back in the living room, and the guy, shows us up to our room, and we don't really have anything. I mean, maybe we did. No, because we were playing on a hotel, so we had a few things, and but we basically just kind of go to bed in their extra room, and we're like, oh my God, that was super awkward, and you had a lousy time with him, and I made the lady fall asleep, and she's like totally just passed out at this point, and we're like, we couldn't wait to get out of there, but we were just totally stuck. Like there's nothing that we could do at that point. There's no hotels on this island. There's nothing like that at all. And so we go to sleep, and we wake up relatively early in the morning, and we go downstairs, and they're like, he had told us that before. It's like, oh, feel free to make coffee or whatever. And then
I was searching everywhere, could not find a coffee pot, could not find coffee grounds. There was no coffee to be had. And I, at the time, was like I got to have my coffee in the morning. So I was getting frustrated. And we were, whispering. Of course, we didn't want to wake them up or anything. But as we're sitting there, like, what do we do? We're just literally sitting here. There's nothing to eat, no coffee. What do we do?
And we felt like it would be rude to just go.
Leave.
Yeah. So then we just start like making noise in the kitchen, talking loudly, and
trying to like stomp around, make some noise. Like, hopefully they'll wake up. Like, how long do you wait before you do just take off? Because we were also checking the ferry schedule, because we wanted to make sure that we could leave with enough time for the ferry, but also we didn't care. We just wanted to get the hell out.
Yeah. So eventually he comes out, and he's just like, hey, good morning. She's fine. She just passed out. And then he just apologizes because they don't have breakfast and they don't have coffee.
And we were like, oh, we got to pick
at this point we're just like, let's get the hell off of this island. And so we got in our car and left, and then I messaged him a week later and said, or a few days later, and said, oh, it was great meeting you, had a good time, just because that's the polite thing to do.
Sure.
Never heard back.
Nope.
Never heard from them again.
Nope.
Never saw them again. And shortly thereafter, I didn't see their profile on the websites or anything like that.
Yeah.
So who the heck?
It's a mystery as to what happened on their side. Like, I'd love to hear their side of the story.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different than ours.
Which is oftentimes the case.
Maybe he was bored with me. Like, maybe he finished and was like, okay, you're boring, go away. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Why else would he be on his cell phone?
Right. Yeah, that is super weird. So what is the moral of the story?
Well, our moral of the story is we just don't date anymore. Like, unless we know the people really well. But even more so, I would still date someone if the thing was right. But I'm not going to go back to their house on an island. I'm not going to get trapped.
Always have an escape route.
Yeah, I think...
That's a good moral of the story. Always have an escape route.
I think for me, going to the club would be a better option because there's an easy out.
Yeah.
Taking them back to your house, like, at least if I'm in my house, I'm in my comfortable space, I'm in my comfortable place, but that doesn't mean you can get them to leave.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they're not going to be like, oh, we're tired, we don't want to drive home, or oh, we drank too much, we don't want to drive home. So then you're stuck hosting if you're not comfortable with them. So bringing them back to my house, if I don't know them, I'm not comfortable with.
Sure.
Now, obviously, I'm not really comfortable going back to their house. So I think for me, it would be figure out getting a hotel. And
that you could just like leave and be like, so you guys sleep.
Yeah, you guys stay here and take the key and we're going to head out or whatever. Or, if you have to get 2 separate rooms or whatever, you can at least go back to your room or something like that. But for me, if I don't know the people at all, I think I would feel the most comfortable meeting up at the club.
Yeah.
Because it's an easy out.
Exactly. So
it's an easy, if you have, like you could even meet before for dinner and that kind of stuff and then go to the club. But if things feel like they're not progressing the way they want them to, or you're getting uncomfortable for whatever reason, there's always you can leave.
Right.
You can go talk to another couple. You have so many buffers around.
Well, that's the biggest thing, is that, you know, even if you go to dinner and you're connecting or you're not connecting, but your plans were, hey, we're going to meet for dinner and then we're going to go to the club afterward and see what happens from there. If you have a lousy time at dinner, but you've already set that up of we're going to go to the club, or you have a great time at dinner and you just don't connect on a sexual level or whatever it might be, that when you're at the club you can be talking to them and then you can go and start talking to somebody else and they're going to do the exact same thing, and everybody ends up having a good time, hopefully, and it ends up being a good situation. So that's
you could also invite them to meet your friends that you see at the club.
Sure.
Like if you're a regular there and you see people there often, you can say, hey, so and so, meet so and so, and maybe they'll connect, or maybe that will help. Like if you all go to the back, then you can play with them a little bit, and test the waters and see if you like it or whatever. There's just like way more options if you do head to the club.
Exactly. And speaking of clubs, if you'd like to go to a really, really good one right now, go to www.clubsapphire.net. Check out all the amazing events that are coming up, and we're going to be there, which is kind of awesome. If you happen to ever see us, please feel free to come and say hello. And of course, you are performing now once a month.
Yeah, Bianca and her bombshells are performing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Check the calendar for that.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else you want to say?
I think we covered it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.